Okay. Thank you, Shalini. That was very, very good. So let's talk about the level of measurements. Now, when we're conducting measurements, we could be conducting it in a qualitative way or a quantitative way. So qualitative means that we are trying to make sense of a variable that either that doesn't necessarily have numerical value, or it could be used in numbers but not in the numerical sense. Let me give you an example. So let's take the client ID. Let's say if the client ID is all numerical, is there a way to logically organize client IDs? Or say one client ID is better than the other or different than the other?
I think from like
I think that would
serial
make
number.
more sense.
Let's say client ID 102133. Let's say it has this format and we have many clients that have, client ID. Is there a way for us to organize these client IDs?
I think from the smallest to the biggest, or
Ascending and descending order.
Their IDs. Their IDs. See, I can have the next client be 135 6, maybe 7. It doesn't, like, it's not necessarily ordered. It doesn't go in a specific order because they're just IDs. I could have CADDF instead, and it wouldn't make any difference.
Exactly. I mean,
because here because this number doesn't mean 102,000. It's just 102,133. That's the ID of the client. I mean, you've all signed up into websites and whatnot, and you got an ID, right? Or you get a number of transaction, your transaction number. Although these are generated incrementally, but that we can't say that this transaction is bigger than the other one, or this transaction happened before this other transaction, just from the transaction ID. Would you agree?
Yeah,
that's the same with phone numbers also.
Like if I look at these two numbers here, just because this number is bigger than the 103 is bigger than the 102, doesn't mean that this client buys more than the 102 client.
But
right?
I have a question here. So if the ID is given based on the time of admission or based on some purpose, then does that make any difference?
It would give us the information that this it wouldn't be, because let's say that this client here, the 103, was an old client, but their account got deactivated. Let's say that they had a previous number that was a 101 something, but they didn't, their account got activated, or they deleted their account and then they came back. So that doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah, so or in keeping it in an orderly fashion doesn't really make any sense, right? Am I
alone? Yeah, that's my point here, is that the ID alone, if I'm looking at the ID alone, that doesn't tell me anything.
That's true. Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think we need some other inputs.
Yes, we need another input. Thank you. So whether it's the transaction number or the client ID, even if they are using numbers, right? We can't make sense of those numbers. We can't add them. We can't subtract them. Like we can't make a sum of these numbers or say that the average client ID is, right? It doesn't have any logic to organize them in that fashion. Would you agree or not?
Yeah, totally.
So
That's
that's what we
also
call
one
a
thing.
nominal scale.
There's
Yes?
like now that I'm thinking about it, isn't that the same thing with the cell phone numbers or your telephone numbers, right? I mean,
Yes.
902 or 905 literally has no relevance if you were
Yes,
to compare
exactly.
anything. And you can't have an average of a phone number also. So
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good example. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, so even if there are numbers, we can't really make sense of them. So
Exactly.
a nominal scale means that we have values that it doesn't make sense to add them, subtract them, make some summation of it. They're in and we can't even compare them. Like take name of countries. We can't say, oh, this country, this name of country is better than the other one without adding another variable to it. Like I can say that this country has more population than the other one because I added another variable that is quantitative. But if I take just the names of the countries, I can't make any sense out of it. It's just names, right? Or names of individuals. What would that tell me? I can take how frequent newborns get the name of, I don't know, Muhammad or Peter or whatnot. Like that's a quantitative value. But if I'm taking just the names on their own, I can't make sense out of them. I need another value that would uh, make sense of comparing or trying to understand the the data set. Does everyone understand the nominal scale? So nominal scale, not necessarily just letters. So it could involve numbers, but the important part is that we can't arrange them in any logical way. So we try to just have a graphic representation, and sometimes we just try to, instead of taking these, uh, these client ID, I just take the number of all clients. So if I have this client ID bought 5 products, this one bought uh, 5 product 1, and this one bought 4 from product 2, and then I can have an organization per product versus per client ID. So I can see for each product how many clients, regardless of these clients, because I'm not interested to know who's the client specifically. I want to know which product is more popular with my clients. So instead of studying each client on their own, I would be studying each product on their own and trying to understand which product is more popular with other clients. Does that make sense? Okay. Now coming to the ordinal scale, we are still not working with numbers, but we have a way to organize in a logical way. Let's say we take satisfaction. Satisfaction, if you've ever taken a survey of satisfaction, it usually starts from very dissatisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, neutral, satisfied, very satisfied, and whatnot. So this is an ordinal scale. It gives me a certain order to, even if these are letters, right? So it gives me, so I know that uh, satisfied is better than neutral, and neutral is better than somewhat dissatisfied, and very dissatisfied is the worst. So I can make sense of this, and that can tell me how many of my clients are very dissatisfied, how many of my clients are somewhat dissatisfied and whatnot, and which would help build the strategy to engage the clients, which would help with improve client satisfaction and whatnot. So this is an example where we can use the ordinal scale. So ordinal means that we can make sense of the order, regardless of the actual value. And the actual value is not necessarily, it may not be, it wouldn't be numbers. It would be, I mean, we can say that, a rank would qualify as an ordinal scale as well, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can rank your satisfaction from a 1 to 5, where 1 is dissatisfied and 5 is very satisfied. So you usually see that on those surveys. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've conducted yourself. So that's still an ordinal scale. Any questions on qualitative variables? Okay, let's take a break. Let's take, yes, Leila, before I'll answer your question and then we'll take a break. Yes, Leila?
Color, so just randomly, just colors would also, so anything that is not tangible basically would be qualitative.
Yes, so colors, where would you put them? Nominal or ordinal?
Ordinal.
Why?
Because we can maybe, it's a tricky question.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about just the colors, blue, red, and whatnot, it would be nominal because, colors are, more about a taste than a certain order. But if we're talking about the nuances, like what color comes first in the palette, then we can have an ordinal scale because, the colors have to follow a certain order in a palette, right? So, yeah, so that's a good question there. So if we're just talking about the general colors, it would be just nominal. But if we're talking nuances and palette of colors, and which have to follow a certain order, then definitely an ordinal scale on that front.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Shalini?
Yeah, but I just got a example for colors being used as an ordinal, just as a question. How about traffic lights? Like, is that ordinal or still nominal?
Well, it is ordinal because uh, green is better than red. Everyone would agree with that. So even we see green as better. So there is because there's an order here. Red means that you can't do anything. Yellow means that you are
Yeah.
you have, so there is an order here, right? Of permission, right? The order
Yeah.
of permission. So you are fully permitted in green and fully not permitted in red. So there is an order here. Make sense?
Okay. Okay. Thanks. So it depends upon how we choose to use it, right?
No, we can't skip from green to red
No,
without
I'm
going to
saying
yellow.
like the numbers, the use, whether we use numerics or colors, it depends upon the creator if they want to use it like a nominal scale or an ordinal scale, right? So am I understanding
Not
it
for
right?
the for not for the case of the traffic lights.
Traffic
In
lights, yeah.
traffic lights, you can't skip. The light has to go from green, yellow to red. It has to. So that's why that's the difference. In ordinal, we can't skip a scale. We have
Right.
to go through those levels to get to the last one. In nominal, it doesn't matter. The scale doesn't really matter. Like
Yeah.
as I mentioned in the example of colors, if we're just talking about colors in general, well, it doesn't really matter unless you're very keen about a specific color. It doesn't really matter whether it's green, blue, or yellow. Like it's just a color, and it would make sense if we're trying to decide a color for our products, but if we're just trying to find the names of colors, so that's just a nominal scale. But if we're
Yeah.
making a palette, if you're making a palette of colors, and you know that a palette has a specific order, so I can't have like red come before yellow, right? Because this is a palette. If we're building a palette, we have to have yellow, then orange, then red.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank
Would
you.
you agree on that? Right? So
Yes.
it depends on the usage. So in palettes, the order is very important. I can't skip. I can't go beyond. Like I can't go from yellow to red. I have to go through orange because it's a palette. But in nominal, I can decide that it's orange or yellow or red. It doesn't really matter on that front.
Yeah, thank you.
So if I may ask
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
another way, just to be sure that I understood. So the moment there is no preference, like the phone numbers, so I can put this number or the other one first or last, it doesn't matter, then it is nominal. But the moment we have a certain preference or there is a requirement to have like a certain order, then it becomes ordinal, as you said, for the colors, for the traffic
But there's
lights.
no but for phone numbers, there's no logic where we can say that this phone number is better than the other, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So we can't really order phone numbers
yeah. Makes sense.
unless we want to do it, but that would still be, you know, categorical, like it would still be nominal, but we can categorize per region, but that still would be nominal, you know. We
Yeah,
can say that one region is better than the other one
yeah.
without evaluating the number of, other variables as well. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry?
Yes, that was very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's take a break. Let's take 10 minutes and come back. Um, what time is it? Let me stop. It's 9:27. Oh, okay. So let's come back at 9 37. Okay, let's come back at 9:37.